Hello, welcome back to I Create For You. We've got it next to the last story in Yellowstone Ghost Stories. Yancey's Ghost. This is a fairly long one. Okay, poltergeist is a German word composed of poltern, meaning noises or rattle, and geist, meaning ghost or spirit. Invisible or partly visible, poltergeists interact with and sometimes through animals and young people. Poltergeists play pranks in houses and on families, or in buildings where groups of people gather. These noisy ghosts use furniture and other possessions to get the attention they are seeking. They engage in mischievous pranks, resulting in discomfort and alarm, but not fatalities. This is a story of a colorful old character who might just have a true poltergeist personality. Way up in the northeast corner of Yellowstone, midway between Mammoth and Cook City, an old and almost forgotten dirt road travels through a beautifully quiet hollow called Pleasant Valley. There, along the west bank of the Yellowstone River, is Yancey's Hole. This spot, along with a few more natural areas, was named for an old Southern gentleman named John F. Yancey, popularly referred to by all as Uncle John. He is noted in history as one of Yellowstone's original squatters, and with a lease from the government, he built and operated a hotel in the park. It's pretty safe to say that Uncle John came from down Kentucky way. Born in 1826, he was the sixth of 10 children. Being a sickly child, he wasn't expected to live long, but ironically, he ended up outliving all his siblings. Yancey's travels started as a child when his family moved to Missouri. When the Civil War started, Yancey took up his musket and fought for the cause he felt was right. When the South lost, he turned to the hills of Nebraska. After chasing the railroad to Salt Lake City and panning for gold in California, Yancey found himself wandering again, and in 1882 he stopped in Yellowstone. In Pleasant Valley, he built a station that was a primitive cave-like dwelling made of rock walls and earth roof. It was a crude accommodation, and its main purpose was to serve the local teamsters driving freight wagons and to and from the area mines. However, soon the site became a well-established retreat for sports and spirits. In 1884, Yancey was granted 10 acres of Yellowstone land and built a two-story rustic log hotel measuring about 20 by 43 feet. Later, a saloon was added, and then a barn, some sheds, and a mail station. At this point, Yancey set out word inviting everyone to visit his Pleasant Valley Hotel, claiming that it was the prettiest place in all of the Rocky Mountains with excellent accommodations for tourists and travelers. Many would argue that the only truth in this statement was that it was the prettiest place in all of the Rocky Mountains. The rooms were drafty, the beds had lice, and the food was so bad that complaints were made constantly to Major Pitcher, the park superintendent. The hotel had 5 small rooms upstairs, each with a single bed, a crate holding a wash bowl and water pitcher, and a piece of a towel. Room numbers were crudely chalked above the doorways, and the extravagant bridal suite was distinguished only by having its own mirror. Even so, Uncle John became genuinely popular, and his hotel was a success. Yancey boasted of good whiskey, and rightly so. It was by far the best tasting stuff around Yellowstone, swearing it was the real thing straight out of the old Canuck or Kaintuck. Yancey actually tamed his own recipe of rotgut with fermented orange syrup. Uncle John Yancey was truly an interesting fellow. It was said that he was a bona fide frontiersman, but there was something about him that seemed peculiar. His unmistakable Southern drawl and refusal to wear any type of blue jeans because their color reminded him of the Union Army pants validated his birth in the heart of Dixie and his position as a true soldier in the Confederate Army. No one really knew why he came to Yellowstone. Maybe he was disheartened by the Civil War and came to West to escape and forget. One thing seems for certain. People found him to be an honorable gentleman with an amiable sense of humor, being somewhat of an eccentric. Each and every evening, after everyone had retired to their rooms, it was said that lonely old Uncle John would climb up the steep, rugged stairs into the dirty attic of his saloon, where he would sleep on the cold floor with his two hound dogs. There is no record of a Mrs. Yancey or children at the Pleasant Valley Hotel, but we know that Yancey had 3 nephews in Montana. Though sociable, it seemed Yancey had no close friends. The Pleasant Valley Hotel hosted the famous as well as the nameless, and Yancey's grand and elite circle of patrons grew to include famous authors, artists, sportsmen, and politicians. He even knew President Theodore Roosevelt. In fact, it was on April 24, 1903, when the president dedicated the cornerstone of the arch at Yellowstone's north entrance, that Yancey caught a cold. Okay, let me do that. In fact, it was on April 24th, 1903, when the president dedicated the cornerstone of the arch at Yellowstone's north entrance, that Yancey caught a cold. The cold quickly turned into pneumonia, and Yancey died on May 6th. It was said of his passing that the park lost one of its most colorful characters. John F. Yancey was buried on Tinker's Hill, just outside the park's boundary at that time. This should have been the end of the old Uncle John Yancey, but it certainly wasn't. 3 years after his death, his hotel burned to the ground and was never rebuilt. Now nothing is left of old Yancey except a few areas which bear his name. There is no doubt, however, that Uncle John still visits quite often. With his home gone, Uncle John Yancey's ghost seems to have settled in the Roosevelt Lodge near Pleasant Valley. Employees who were there frequently experience odd occurrences and blame them on the old man. With his poltergeist soul, his noisy energy makes his presence known. He travels the halls at night, banging on the doors of the staff's quarters with his old tin coffee cup. Employees often keep a radio tuned up to get some sleep. Yancey loves to move around items in the lodge kitchen. It's not rare for things which were once lost to turn up later in the strangest places. Today, Yancey's ghostly presence is especially felt at the Roosevelt corrals. One night, Dave, one of the lodge's wranglers, and his friend led their horses to the stable upon returning from a late ride. Dave offered to take care of the saddles and asked his friend to bring the feed bags. When his friend returned with a feed bag, both men were surprised to see that his horse already had a feed bag around its head. It was apparent that neither man had done it, so they blamed Yancey. This frightened the friend, and he disappeared. So Dave unhitched his saddle and put it away. Then he turned to take care of the other horse, and was startled to see the horse's bare back. The saddle had already been put away. Why does Yancey's ghost linger around Roosevelt area? Why did he wait for more than 25 years after his death to return? Yancey was buried on Tinker's Hill, which at the time was not inside Yellowstone. Since the National Park Service bought the land surrounding the cemetery, Yancey has returned. He has chosen the Roosevelt Lodge because its operation is familiar to him. The lodge still uses horses and wagons and stagecoaches, so to Yancey it must feel much like his old hotel. As for the noises, it's the old Southern gentleman making sure he is not forgotten. Yancey isn't spoken of much anymore, but as one of the Yellowstone's true pioneers, Yancey's spirit remains. So when you are around the Roosevelt area, perhaps in the lodge or stables, and hear odd noises or see strange and unusual things, and if you are brave enough to investigate but find nothing, remember old Uncle John Yancey. He was here first. That's interesting. That's an interesting story. Let's see, what did I get from that? Usually I think that poltergeists are associated with like adolescents or teenagers. This is what I remember growing up and hearing about poltergeists. I, like they would do weird things, like if there was a house that had a poltergeist in it, and there happened to be maybe a 12 or 13-year-old child in that house, it would like fixate on the child, like pull the covers off of them when they're in their bed, or maybe it would just want to target the whole family and go down and open all the cabinets in the kitchen, and just little mischievous things. Nothing really, really like the poltergeist movie, but it's just little things that would happen. Drawers would be pulled open, and or I could tell you a story about, but I don't even know if it was a poltergeist at the time, but there was a man was an ex-husband, so to speak, and he had 3 daughters, and at the time there were two of them were one was almost a teenager and one was a teenager, and the other one was little. And I'll have to remember to tell you another time, so I don't have too much time on this video. So you're going to have to wait till the next video, and I'll tell you the story about that, and I'll tell you all the little things that happened. My own special experiences with either a poltergeist or just an unhappy soul. Anywho, since he was centered around the corrals and he seemed to love horses, I'm going to try to draw just a silhouette of a horse and a man walking beside a horse, the best that I can. But have any of you ever had or heard of experiences with poltergeists? Wait, let me get you guys down closer to where I am. I've already drawn a horse's ear. Okay. I wish there was like on these cameras. I wonder if there is such a thing where you're busy doing something like this, and all of a sudden you get out of frame and an alarm would go off. I think I need one of those kind. I think that would be like awesome, because then I could tell when you guys aren't in frame and not seeing what I'm doing. I had this camera up pretty high, and so it's probably why I have like trouble. I have to stop and like practically stand up to see. I think I might be making this horse a little bit wider than he needs to be here. He's coming at us, sort of. So I want to make it so that he's, that's his back end there. Lots of erasing. Trying to do kind of a silhouette type thing. It's not gonna look good at first, but I'll try to get it to look a little bit better. You have any experiences that you could probably put down in the comments? Or maybe there's something you've heard about poltergeists. Like, what are your ideas on what they are and how they operate or act? I've never drawn a horse like this before. This is a strange way of drawing a horse. But hey, we all got our firsts, right? So, this is going to be the horse. I'm just going to color him in because it's going to be a dark silhouette. Can't believe we're almost halfway through October already, and I thought October just started, for heaven's sakes, and already we're almost at Halloween, my favorite holiday. I'm going to make these lines all a little darker because I'm going to be shading him so that he's like a silhouette, but I want to still have strong outlines so you can tell where his butt is and his um, legs and stuff like that. And I'm trying not to move the paper so that I stay in frame a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm shaking you guys. I tried to make the camera a little more sturdier, but sometimes they just have a mind of their own. I was in the middle of getting this together and to work on, and getting the camera set up and stuff, and my little ring light fell apart. And I'm like, yep, that figures. That just figures. This is gonna look funny too, but I mean, it'll come together. I'm trying to imagine what kind of clothes they might have worn, like maybe a trench coat and stuff. I don't know, but that's what I'm going for. He's holding the horse's reins. Well, that wasn't much of a trench coat, but still, it's a coat nonetheless. I found something pretty cool. You know how I do my 200 drawing prompts? It's not that really designated that you do one a day or anything like that. Well, actually, I found this online. Well, when I was looking on and fit on my Facebook, it came up, and it was a list of spooky things for the Halloween, one a day. And unfortunately, I didn't see it until yesterday, so like I'm already behind on all the prompts. But what I'm thinking of doing is maybe doing shorts, like maybe try to do 2 or 3 a day if they're not really outrageous looking sketches. I mean prompts. I can go with that, and you guys would still get to see what I'm doing. I'm not happy with this horse. I'm a real horse person, and this horse's nose and stuff just seemed too out of line here. Disproportioned. Shouldn't have been that fat. Okay. a little bit better. Now he has donkey ears. Can't win for losing, can I? Look, buddy, you're either going to have rabbit ears or you're going to have dog ears. But at least you'll hear. Yeah, so I might bring up that list and do shorts. So just look out for that and see if that's going to happen. See, I'm going to try to do. I started another YouTube channel, so I'm pretty busy with that one. I tried to do this one Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then do a few shorts in between for this channel. And then like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I tried to do that channel, plus crocheting and everything for holidays and stuff. So it's a little bit hectic. I think, like I said, we have one more story in here, and I'm not sure if this is it. Imaginary Companions. I don't remember if we did this one at all, but I'll have to really look through these. And I think I've been putting most of the titles in the story when I upload it. So I think, yeah, like I said, we only have one more story in here, but we will not be leaving Yellowstone because I do have some stories, some ghost stories. It said spooky stories of Yellowstone, so I had gotten that when I was out there. Thank you for stopping by and listening to this ghost story. Some of these are very interesting and they happened so long ago, but they seem to still be relevant today. Enough to be in a book and enough for people to still experience things. And there are a lot of good facts and a lot of good, interesting ideas and things that came about for Yellowstone. Things you wouldn't even really know about just by visiting, like just going there. And like I said, thank you. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the content. Subscribe if you haven't, because we've got lots more to do. And comment. Let me know what you think about these poltergeists. Now, I've seen the poltergeist movie, but, like I said, next time I'm going to remember on Friday, I will tell you the rest of that story of what my experience was. And don't forget, Whatever Wednesday's coming up also. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now.